So like definitely never remember right now for like basically my little sister like basically in Will's home like being that through like the fairy lights to Johnson, you know, which I was bring would be Johnson. So like I'm going to bring it would be precisely Will that would be like leading like my little sister to that precise role. And I'm also bringing it to this precisely Will's attempt to like basically get more help and especially through like my little sister for Will to be able to like communicate towards like Mike would be like I'm preparing right now. Will would be totally attempting right now. It's definitely my best everything because like right now, especially since like the current situation is like even like Jonathan as well, like Will's own brother, like Jonathan as well, like basically totally thinking that Will's mother is like this, his mother is like crazy. It seems like that, like kind of like the situation. So like I'm also differing. So essentially because of that, like I'm also differing, and Will might be even in like the parallel dimension, like Will might also be possibly able to like might have been able to like see that basically even with own brother Jonathan not able to believe or understand like their mother. So like about bring this would be will attend right now through like my little sister to like send some message to like Mike would be what I'm going to bring will be right now attending. Definitely my brother and also my brother was that like especially since like the day Bill had disappeared like on that very day itself, Bill had played the board game to it at like Mike's home basement. Like at that point, when Bill was like leaving Mike's home itself, like since like night for uh, in like Mike's home were flickering at that point precisely when Bill was saying like farewell to like Mike that for that day. Itself, I'm totally definitely that flickering would be definitely the reason for that flickering while Bill even before Bill got abducted while Bill was leaving my system might have definitely been due to like an alien presence settling and those matters. So like I'm referring in like the parallel world or like in like the parallel dimension where like microphone would be there and also a lot of aliens, great number of aliens would be like station right there around surrounding like my home in like the parallel world of technical. So like precisely this might be like an extremely important reason is what I'm referring as for like Will exactly while Will has multiple times tried to like communicate and seek help through like his mother. I'm referring at the same time Will might be totally unable to let go up to like Mike's home and try to like in a similar manner try to seek help from Mike precisely because of this reason, definitely that I'm also talking about would be precisely there would be a lot of like the aliens that would be like alien races that would be stationed around like surrounding microphone in like the parallel was definitely in the city the percent reason for like will not be being able to like through like the light person will not being able to like contact my uh through like my phone light bulbs and that way see help from my definitely so like simply because of this reason I'm also talking right now it would be precisely will that that will be right now through like the fairy lights will be like leading like my in different sisters towards uh, like Johnson's store. And it will be precisely will attempt desperate attempt to like send some sort of a message so attempt trying to like send some sort of like important message seeking help to my through like my facility system. It's definitely not of interest and sitting on it. Definitely not of interest right now with that like exactly like how Mike using it like radio walkie talking like phone like basically might speak to like Lucas and Dustin themselves. Basically, I'm considering these two might have definitely had phones with like very same walkie-talkie like phone like thing, a radio phone like thing. It's definitely might also be interesting. So we might have had two of them. It's definitely my preference. So like I'm considering before Will, right before Will got abducted, Will might have because Will has like a high IQ and Will might have only smartly certainly like picked up one of the like walkie-talkie like phones and put it in his like pocket before essentially before like Will might have got abducted. It's definitely not Wilson. So my first reference is that with that alien creature like chasing after and following Will like I'm considering Will might have only been able to sense like something bad about to happen to him. So like I'm considering precisely he might have prepared himself by picking up one of like the walkie-talkie platform and putting it onto his pocket and it will be precisely through that with walkie-talkie like a radio phone that will be repeatedly calling might have called like twice that to like Will's home and spoke to like his mother. It definitely made us real. So like I'm bring there will be one extra pair of like this like walkie-talkie radio like phone in like Will's home, and that will be precisely somewhere in like Jonathan's home. It definitely made us real. So that would be what like I'm considering right now. Will through like the fairy lights might have been trying to like get actually like will right now I'm considering like will right now through like the fairy lights might have by leading my little sister to precisely Jonathan's phone like I'm considering Will might have been able to Will might have been trying to like get Mike's little sister to find that precise a radio phone will lack on the phone. So definitely make it very much. So like my very impression that maybe it might totally have to do that even attempting such an attempt might totally have to do with like that possibly that extra pair radio phone that might definitely exist in like Will's home and like especially Johnson's home would actually be belong to like Mike's definitely my possibility. It might be like one of like Mike's a radio phone that I'm maybe like my expert fair already on that might they might have borrowed before getting up as that might be lag even for something like John Peter or supplement or something. So like that way to like get my listen that show that the size radio phone in like Jonathan Perlman that way so that like we might have hoped for like that way either like my listen sister or like with like my listen sister being in that room like basically either my mother that way like showing up to that room and recognizing that radio phone and that way like the radio phone that extra that radio phone of Mike eventually ending up in like Mike's phone so that like eventually that thing will be able to that radio phone will be able to like communicate with Mike might have been definitely will IIQ plan. This might have been what will might have attempted right now is definitely not a bring. And this might be the preparation for like while leading like Mike listen up to like Johnson's own like basically like it like Johnson's little I mean like Vince, Mike's little sister like being that to Johnson's own in like a calm manner with like each of like the fairy light like calmly lighting up one after another. But like I was in the place just like once like my little sister entered like Johnson's home like by then I'm booking like 5 million more attempting this in like the parallel dimension and the by then like especially like the once again, like the alien creature might have, like, since like the black dog like hiding from like the alien creature, like I'm referring, the alien creature might have once again like chased after and found, finally found it once again, definitely not the pyramid. So like I'm looking at something so like Will might have totally gotten panicked at that point, and that might be the preparation for like when my little sister has after entering like the room, like all of the like the calm manner in which like the lights were like illuminating one after another and leading my little sister to like its own like all of them like changing its like pattern to like a panicking kind of like instant flickering around of like each of like the great number of lights in like Johnson's road. Might have it happened due to when getting totally panicked and trying to like get away from like the alien. That's definitely my judgment rate. And it might have been like suddenly that alien creature that might have resulted in like all of the lights in like Johnson's room like instantly like once again shutting off and going out once again suddenly and like at that point itself for like the alien creature to like shape to like reform within the world like in the difference. It might totally not at all have to do with like the alien totally during my sister younger sister to like that Professor of Johnson, but it might definitely have had to do with like in attempting to like get Mike's little sister to like a radio phone which will be in like Johnson's room, but like the alien right then it is finding with and basically showing up to that location in like the parallel dimension and talking to like man again to like once again go into like somehow still succeed in like hiding away from like the prison and that way like the aliens like silhouette or like the aliens like shape like being what at that point and that being the reason for like the alien shape at that point being what like Microsoft little stuff had seen in that wall in like London Road. This might have been like the scenario and that scenario that might have happened. It's definitely Microsoft range. So like according to my present enumeration, that's the reason for like Will going through such extreme extent, which like what exactly Will might have done to get like my little sister to like most likely that radio phone, which like might have actually belonged to my like I'm considering to get that radio phone, extra spare radio phone of my to my sister would be like the particular reason would be most likely due to like still probably not not having memorized like my home phone number or like and I'm also bring like will might not want to like share either it will be because of like will not knowing like the phone number to like not having memorized like the phone number to like my phone or like I'm going to bring it my to do like will not want to like uh, scare like my family. So like maybe they might have wanted to like specifically contact my throat exactly to select to press a radio phone. Uh, and Apple brace might also have to do like while might have like currently even in like the present Mike would be having like another radio phone with him right now. Still Apple brace Bill might not know the number to that exact current radio phone that might soon be having like Apple brace Bill might only be knowing like the number of like this pair radio phone that might have given to Will like the past. Especially like the number to that exact pair radio phone which actually belongs to Mike will be like the only number that Will might have been able to like memorize. Will might have in his like memories definitely never so like since according to my person today, I'm also putting like in like the paradigm it might definitely not be able to like actually run off and go up to like students to like able to bring a lot of like still thinking about the generation that like it being extremely dangerous in like survival world around like a lot like alien rate of like stations there like I'm just bringing to because of this all these reasons combined will be the reason for like Bill being desperate to somehow be able to like communicate to my country help to my uh, but like I'm also referring like and that way like just like my radio phone that might exist that might be present in like Johnson's room would be like the sole way that for Will to be able to like communicate with my this would be what that Will would be like right now feeling and hence like everything that Will would be doing right now. It's definitely matters in reimpression. That definitely matters in reimpression right now is that is even though Johnson took fix that we shouldn't be taking and basically even though what Johnson did was in fact but still Nancy right now might not only regrets that basically Steve's act of like destroying like Johnson camp that might was like definitely taking it too far. Might have definitely been what right now Nancy would be feeling what Steve is definitely my difference about which I'm definitely putting like mutually I'm considering there to be like Thomas Grable I'm considering there to be like a quarrel between and instead the principal opinion between like Nancy and Steve is definitely like a reimbursement. And I'm preferring it especially because of like Nancy's current situation also being like Nancy on top of like her worry of like the disappearance of Barbara, which like currently only Nancy is like aware about, and on top of that, like Nancy being totally worried for like the uncertainty as to like where Barbara is, and on top of that, like basically the fact that like on top of that, I'm considering like Nancy, even while Barbara is like a good friend of Nancy, like even more than that, I'm considering Nancy even feeling like even more responsible for like Barbara's disappearance right now. It was like Nancy that had basically forced Barbara to like basically and forced Barbara to like basically join Nancy to like go with her to like Steve's party and basically things like Nancy and basically then straight away like act differently towards like Barbara right before Barbara disappeared. So like I'm considering with that absolute guilt that being that will be found within Nancy like that like the extreme guilt of like the feeling of like Nancy is like solely responsible for like Barbara like friend Barbara's like disappearance and all that. Definitely my girlfriend is like definitely that extreme disturbance definitely lying with it Nancy and on top of that like I'm different definitely with like Steve breaking like the Johnson's camera and all that like I'm different definitely there I'm different like a fight like a quarrel still happened between like Nancy and Steve without much great delays, like the scenario that I'm looking at. And I'm also putting like especially even right now I'm putting like even before that I'm putting Nancy totally right now even telling I'm putting like as like Steve has left to like watch the games and delivering like Nancy right now staying back right now and like right now delivering Nancy telling Johnson that it was wrong what Johnson did, but still it seems like Nancy is even I guess right now even extremely worried for like as like where Barbara is like I'm different like Nancy right now asking Jonathan about like when Jonathan had last seen Barbara and different like Jonathan most likely like them picking up the pieces of like the photos and I'm also bring like them placing it together and like Nancy actually seeing that self photo where Barbara was last seen sitting by like support. So definitely remember and I'm also bring like Nancy totally seeing that as like a that photo as like as to purchase especially because of like Nancy having actually no clue at all as to like where Barbara is like I'm considering Nancy right now slowly steering like that basically exactly like will like the photo of Barbara having disappeared being the next victim like basically along such lines I'm considering like Nancy right now saying and I'm considering as like Nancy and Nancy and Johnson will be like interacting and basically putting all these pieces together and Nancy will be revealing to like Johnson about not knowing where Barbara currently is, like Barbara not having showed up to school, not place of home, and all that. I'm just putting right now, since and Nancy revealing to like Jonathan. So like I'm just putting Jonathan as well, like Jonathan not being able to like overcome trauma, losing will like I'm just putting definitely Jonathan as well will be like extremely seriously worried for like Barbara. Also like I'm preferring right now since I'm preferring like Jonathan would be so the I'm preferring Jonathan that I'm preferring would be totally contacting like Sheriff Hopper and like will be most likely telling Sheriff Hopper that about like Barbara's sister. And I'm preferring Jonathan's before like Jonathan will be falling off like I'm preferring most likely Nancy as well will be by Jonathan's side. So like I'm preferring initially Nancy totally being against like Jonathan falling Hopper precisely because of Nancy herself would be like totally like worried for herself as well, as if like her being held responsible for like Barbara's like disappearance and all that, like as for like her having to like literally would be having to like answer to Barbara's family uh, because of like Barbara's disappearance, like Barbara's family, like Lynn, Nancy, and all that, like basically having to deal with all that. So like I'm assuming Nancy being kind of like extremely disturbed and only afraid of like basically Johnson warning Hopper, but like I'm also like Hopper like nicely dealing it with like the scenario that I was still I'm also Jonathan convincing Nancy that like we should do this is the right thing to right decision to take right now is to like basically let Hopper know as soon as possible. Johnson calling Hopper, and yet like I'm also saying Hopper precisely shielding Nancy like Hopper being able to precisely understand like the circumstances and being situated and Hopper precisely like shielding Nancy and like basically Hopper leading like Barbara's investigation in such manner so that like Nancy uh, doesn't get like blamed or it affects Nancy's life or ethics. It's like usually in such a manner Hopper like extremely empathetically and Hopper even questioning Nancy not at and then the different of that like Hopper will definitely be even questioning Nancy uh, about like the incidents of like the day at the party at like Steve's home. Like that even that questioning as well about Hopper will be doing it in private and not in front of like Nancy's family, not Barbara's family. Hopper won't be questioning Nancy in front of neither Nancy's family or Barbara's family. Like in the scenario that I'm saying, like Hopper, like totally acting in such an extremely empathetic manner to like Nancy. So like in the scenario that I'm about to bring and so like my good impression is that like right now with like the entire current situation will be like totally just Nancy will be like totally getting extremely guilty and responsible for like Barbara's disappearance. And on top of that, like with Steve breaking like the camera of Jonathan as well. And then bring like all this collectively and especially with like Jonathan as well extremely worried for Will. And hence like Nancy as well as Jonathan having a lot of common things between them about to bring like them to like spend more time together right now. Like Nancy was with that extreme guilt and responsibility, feeling of like being responsible for Barbara's parents and also bring Nancy as well, like totally join with like Jonathan. And basically, even while Popper would be doing his and his team would be doing his investigation exactly like Jonathan, Nancy as well will be extremely worried for Barbara and the different Nancy as well spending time with spending a lot of time with like Jonathan and like them trying to figure out as to like their exact them personally trying to figure out and brainstorming together and trying to figure out and like how exactly Barbara might have disappeared. Barbara who was last seen by the pool, like how she might have suddenly disappeared and all that. So like from that way, like Jonathan and spending a lot of time together, and that totally creating that extreme envy and jealousy within Steve. And then when that often Steve like probably turn into like try to like even bully Jonathan. It's like the scenario, eventually it's like the scenario that I'm different. And at that point, I'm remembering Nancy probably stepping up and raising a strong voice against like Steve. And I'm remembering that only I'm remembering will be like encouraging Steve even more. I'm remembering Steve's like gap to change a lot at that point. Fueled with that extreme envy, I'm remembering Steve to be like at that point, I'm remembering Steve like an that all aggressive side of left field, which might definitely exist, would be like only getting revealed only at that point is definitely I think when like Steve would be usually fueled with that extreme envy towards like Jonathan for like and I'm also bringing like that whole quarrel and fight that would be happening with like Steve at that point of like eventually would be like trying to bully Jonathan and Nancy, like totally perfecting Jonathan and stepping up and Nancy shouting back at Steve and basically all this like quarrel and fight and also bringing into the putting in like Nancy especially during that incident which I'm also which will happen. Would be one for example when Nancy totally breaking up with Steve. Uh, and it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring, and I'm going to bring that to be what like eventually leads to like Nancy talking, starting to like feel that affection and love towards like Jonathan, and I'm going to bring like Nancy and Jonathan like totally falling in love, while at the same time them being worried for like the people precious to them that have joined the field, like still empowering them, both like spending a lot of time together and investigating and doing their investigation for like for like them to join with like empowering that eventually bring them closer to each other and then just bring and I'm also bring like eventually like I'm bring still not deciding to like move on and also bring even more would be like filled with like that same at the end of the different stage eventually even after that like I'm just different stage in like the future once again trying to perform issues in like Nancy and Jonathan's life and I'm going to bring at that point I'm going to bring Nancy being like helpless and not being able to like in like a situation where like she wouldn't be able to like do anything against Steve and at that point is when like finally like Jonathan will be finally like mustering up the courage and I'm going to bring Jonathan probably at that point like putting Steve into place at that point, like the scenario that understood of like and my taking and like at that point, like with that from that with that action of like Jonathan and both the things that will be happening at that point, I'm also bring Nancy only feeling safe with like Jonathan and I'm also bring like it would be at that point like they will be more like deeply love between each other like Nancy and Jonathan. It would be at that point like I'm also bring like at that point without much great delay and suffering like one day one night like on top of like situation happening and I'm also suffering with that like and Nancy will be like getting affected by the area which the suffering will be happening like on that very night or like the very next night uh, that I'm also suffering like Nancy will be getting affected by the alien voice of like the scenario that affected and that way like Johnson and that's once again that's feeling that extreme disturbance and sadness and worry within him that with like two of the people that are like so extremely precious to Johnson like Bill as well as like Nancy would have turned by then to be like an extremely important it's just so something like Johnson's life so like it's like Nancy as well like getting affected by the creature and the tutoring and on Johnson would be temporarily feeling like totally down and like but like I'm going to bring at that point it being like Sheriff Hopper at that point, like totally controlling Jonathan and being that absolute father figure for like Jonathan at that point, and basically at that point I'm referring like solely due to like Sheriff Hopper feeling all that confidence and controlling Jonathan, I'm referring like Jonathan filling up the courage and not willing to like give up and determined to like save like will save the people that are purchased, not just like the people that are purchased to Jonathan, but like even Barbara and all the people that by then would have surely affected by the alien races. Like Johnson, like keeping up with like relentless effort in like an even more stronger and determined manner from that point on. It's like this much effective scenario that I'm in the room for and that would be very interesting. Sort of little bit impression as for like Jonathan taking photos that he shouldn't have taken. Like I'm preparing that might definitely have to do with like that Jonathan definitely having like that extreme crush towards like having a crush towards like serious crush towards like Nancy from way back. It's definitely way back. I'm considering even before Nancy had even met Steve on the different like Jonathan might have had like such a serious crush towards like Nancy, but like I'm considering Jonathan might have in deep down like might have never had like the courage to like express how he feels to and just like affection towards like how he feels towards like Nancy to Nancy. It's definitely my personal impression. So and I'm also bringing it might have really happened due to like so it might have like Jonathan even like seeing Nancy and she having like a crush towards Nancy might have all happened solely due to like the bond of friendship from way back. Ever since like Will might have became friends with like Mike, like I'm wondering that might have been how like what that might have eventually connected like Will's family with like Will's mother and Jonathan with like Mike's family. That's like that's definitely my brain. So like I'm wondering maybe in like the past they might have had like the family of Mike and like family of Will might have like had spend time together like in like the uh these two families might have had like spend time together in like the stuff like which so like I'm considering like it might have been then that I'm considering like Jonathan might have first and this might have been like things that might have happened in like the way back in like the past. So like this might have been like the first time that like this might have even been when like the first time like Jonathan might have even seen Nancy definitely might have been so like it might have been since way back when Jonathan was something like Jonathan might have had like a serious crush and like feeling of love and affection towards like Nancy. It's definitely my positive impression, but like Jonathan being like to like might have probably lacked like the courage to express how he feels to Nancy, and that way like I'm considering Nancy might have because of like Jonathan not expressing his like feelings towards Nancy and considering like Jonathan, it might have been like heartbreaking for Jonathan, which when like especially Nancy might have like fallen in love with like Steve, especially in like, the way which or like I was differing. It would be precisely like these reasons or would be like definitely a factor in which like Jonathan taking all the stick of Nancy is definitely my personal theory and shit. So like never brain person right now is basically that like that experimental like solution part that the brain was trying to make 11 to involving like the cat might have been to take the life of like to make 11 take the life of that cat. It's definitely not the brain. So like I was like even though Brand might have even from extremely young age like Brand might have probably like the villain of Brand might have run up might have done like absolute maximum to like brainwash 11 uh into like basically making her think as if like basically that it's like the experiment success that like the only thing that matters like and there's nothing wrong with that like it would be along the lines like the reference might have done that to maximum to brainwash for 11 it's definitely my favorite but like definitely even like in like that experiment involving like the cat like on those even though with all that brainwashing of planet still like that might have definitely been that strong gut instinct within like 11 that might have definitely been telling 11 that no it's wrong that was that basically like that experiment of planet like what he was trying to make 11 to take the life of that cat that was definitely wrong that might have definitely been that gut instinct that might have strongly might have been present within like 11 it's just me might have been and so it might have definitely not been due to like and that might have been the reason for like 11 like throwing away like herself like sitting trying to pick that side experiment involving the cat would be precisely due to that cutting alone and not would not at all be due to like the no play that 11 will be 11 yet whenever she uses her mind like power psychic kind of like a superpower that limit might have nothing to do with like the that whole taxation that basically using that power and inflicts onto her body, but like it might only and only have to do with that strong gut instinct within her that to be like strongly telling her that what friend was trying to make her do of taking the life of that gas with the gas with wrong. That would be like a solution for like her trying to like quit that experiment is definitely my own emergency. But like I just very own question for like 11 like having like the notes played like most of the time when she uses her superpower but like it may totally have to do with like while my personal impression that while 11 would be having such an exceptional IQ that might even definitely pass off as that of like Puranak, which and like that way like and like hence like those are like 11 would be having that ultimate mind power which allows 11 to be able to like handle all this like super powers like yet like I'm different like yet I'm different specifically due to like 11's age and so yeah I'm different like 11's body might not be like developed enough to be able to like handle all that power and those differing like that might be the precise reason like to perfectly be able to like handle all that power superhuman power and that will be like the precise reason for like the nosebleed most of the times when 11 uses that superpower especially my comfortable and for different like my comfortable definitely that like once 11 becomes an adult like 11 would be like according to like Ample even according to like friends like theories and everything like Ample friends as well might be or expecting that like would be might be patiently waiting for like 11 to turn into an adult to a full grown adult so that like at that point I'm also bring like 11's like on the Ample bring like 11's like superpower like that he will just most likely will use in your mind like the intensity of that power as well would be like sharply increasing, and on top of that, like body as well would be like perfectly developed and strong to be able to like handle all that super power, superhuman power as well. It's definitely my personal theory and prediction. So yeah, like my personal theory and prediction is that like once 11 becomes an adult, or like if 11 survives to the point of like becoming an adult, then the 11 would be able to like use all of her superpowers while not having any nosebleed and with like greater intensity and greater ease and swiftness and significance will be able to like perform all of those like super human powers, especially in the brain. So like the 11 I'm watching right now as got like 11 right now as she's like going along with like my kind of friends. I think that most likely would be much word like I'm considering right now all of a sudden for like 11 to be that all of a sudden be extremely talkative like I'm considering than how when compared to how 11 was until that this point. I'm considering like it might totally have to do with like the two things that basically 11 had basically seen right before right now at 3:15 like leaving with like my friend seeing like especially one like the ad of like the soft drink as well as like right before leaving with Mike like basically like 11 also seeing like the cat and basically remembering like all these things like basically reminding bring back like the that extreme suffering of like the memory like within 11's of 11's days while within like the lab of like Parana so like I'm considering 11 right now, like especially even after that, after like the suffering at like memories, like I'm considering after like on top of that, like right now with like the old memory through like the cat that 11 had basically remembered like I'm considering 11 right now all of a sudden might be only feeling like absolutely relieved that basically she's no more right now she's no in like that she was finally able to like free that lab of runner that basically even while Lucas and Dustin, specifically Lucas would be, and Dustin would be not that extremely friendly towards like 11 when compared to, especially Lucas when compared to like my still number different like 11 right now would be like after like think back of the memory of her days while being in like the lab of Corridor, how extremely she was made to like suffer due to like Brenner and his left side so like I'm different and it's been like I'm considering like definitely like 11 right now will be totally feeling grateful and appreciative of like basically everything 11 have in like the moment like basically appreciative of like especially Mike as well as like even Dustin as well as like Lucas basically the fact that like she has like friends like basically uh the fact that she's right now like surrounded by these people like Mike, Dustin, and Lucas who are like total and complete opposite to like how like the people in Brenner and like the people in the lab was with both people who created was all the suffering for 11 like compared to them like basically right now the extreme contrast in how like Mike and his like friends Lucas and Dustin how they behave to 11 and how they are to like 11 like how much like kind-hearted and especially Mike with like how much with how much extremely kind-hearted and in like an empathetic manner like Mike with like you know might give towards like 11 basically, or that might have totally right now put 11 at such an extremely relaxed and peace kind of like a state, which might be like precisely that way like 11 might have slowly like right now being able to also currently might have been able to like let go of all of the reason that might be like the place of reasons for like 11 right now with just this one day like having that extreme drastic change with like 11 like speaking so all of them like speaking so extremely freely with like Mike would right now would be especially because of the this reason is definitely my tutorial. So like definitely my tutorial person right now with like Nancy all by herself like something to his home for like Barbara and those different and right now like I'm bring like the rustling sound from like 10 years before uh, I'm going to bring that won't be like the alien creature, but like I'm going to bring actually that will be precisely like Jonathan. It's definitely my own revision. Especially because like Jonathan might have probably precisely like spotted like basically might have like precisely sent something wrong with like Nancy precisely as he saw like Nancy precisely just picking up like even when Jonathan had seen like Jonathan knows of like the fact that like Nancy basically didn't take like support of Nancy that basically Jonathan had taken and instead like the fact that Nancy had specifically picked up that support of like uh photo of Barbara alone like and also bring like Jonathan might have definitely sent something is wrong with like Nancy and might have sent something so she sent something wrong with like Nancy definitely might have sent so like Jonathan might have gently secretly like spied on Nancy and basically secretly followed Nancy. Jonathan might have been able to sense like Nancy not being the essential that is having like an extra worry to Nancy's face that very during that very time might have been one thing that Jonathan might have been able to sense. So like I'm considering while Nancy all by herself like went to like Steve's home, definitely Jonathan might have like necessarily followed Nancy. And I'm considering like the flag so like Jonathan might have even see might have right now even heard and might have seen like Nancy right now all by herself in like Steve's home. And I'm considering like Steve's parents might have actually not returned. It's definitely also might have been so like Nancy all by herself like shouting out for Barbara in like Steve's home. Like basically this might be like something that like Jonathan might have definitely right now be secretly observing, but like Jonathan might not want to like approach Nancy solely due to like the present situation with like Jonathan involving Nancy and like the photos and everything. So like Jonathan might definitely have like even more of like a fear of like basically approaching Nancy. So like I'm just worried that Jonathan right now would be like secretly hiding in that forum that's like close to like Murphy and will be basically observing Nancy, but like I'm considering like the rustling sound. I'm considering Nancy right now finding Jonathan, and I'm considering like Nancy like totally at that point thinking as to like why Jonathan's being so weird. It's like the scenario that I'm living, and at that point I'm considering Jonathan like struggling to like totally convince Nancy that he wasn't doing like anything suspicious or anything, and basically he was like genuinely worried for Nancy and all that. And was Jonathan trying to convince Nancy, but like I was definitely putting like Nancy not all being like fully convinced. Definitely Nancy not being fully convinced at all. It's like the scenario that I was delivering. But like I was delivering during that whole interaction, I was delivering like Jonathan like asking Nancy about like why she was calling out for like Barbara. So like I'm considering that interaction totally eventually leading to like Nancy like I'm considering like Nancy right now would be like totally feeling like uh, extremely like helped with like her alone knowing like the truth about like Barbara's disappearance and her not being able to like tell anyone because like and then they would only feeling that if she even shares this with like anyone like they would only searching like they might not even keep that information to themselves and they might even like on about like that like they might straight away judge Nancy and Nancy ending up being responsible and all that like might be that fear that might be lying to Nancy. So like I'm considering but with like in the case of Jonathan right now I'm considering Nancy is only feeling comfortable in a way as if like Jonathan won't be like Nancy would be totally getting that feel that Jonathan won't feel like the kind of person who would be only judging Nancy. So like I'm very and especially with like Johnson as well, being in like a similar kind of situation with like someone purchased the person purchased to Johnson going missing with like Bill going missing. So like I'm considering Nancy feeling comfortable with Johnson at that point, and Nancy is only telling Johnson about like everything about that day about like Barbara's disappearance and all that like really and I'm preparing that right, and I'm preparing specifically my personal mission, and it will be through that interaction that like Jonathan will be like informing Hopper like the sheriff Hopper about like the next disappearance, like possibly being like Barbara's disappearance. So that being how Hopper like basically learning of like the second disappearance in like the town of Hawkins after Bill. With like the second disappearance being that of Barbara, especially my personal, especially because like even though after like Nancy's phone call to like Barbara's mother, like even though Barbara's mother might have definitely felt kind of an uneasy feeling and like kind of like a slight worry involving Barbara as for like the possibility of like Nancy's excuse possibly in through the phone like basically like something suspicious about me. So even though like I'm remembering that Barbara's mother will be right now kind of like worried for Barbara. But yet like I'm remembering like still like Barbara's mother will be right now of the mindset of like basically of feeling that basically like still holding on to like that optimistic kind of hope that basically like definitely Barbara would be definitely would be like returning back I'm considering like Barbara's mother right now would be thinking along the lines of like if Barbara doesn't would be definitely worried for Barbara, but she would be still holding on to the hope and like the possibility of like Barbara probably returning back home before evening. So like I'm considering Barbara's mother would be planning on calling like the sheriff uh, if like if Barbara doesn't return by evening, that would be like along the mindset in which like I'm looking like right now Barbara's mother will be. So like I'm looking even before so that way like even before Barbara to being evening like I'm looking that right now for like the whole Nancy and Jonathan interaction to happen and for that interaction like Jonathan being like the possessed person and the friend would be like phoning and informing like Hawk about like Barbara's parents and I'm that to totally happen um, before like Barbara's parents would be like calling and informing Hopper like of like the worry of like Barbara's disappearance definitely like the scenario that I'm looking at getting and I'm looking at so like definitely the impression right now as for like the mysterious creature right now passing behind quickly behind like Nancy in like the box temple considering like that creature won't be like the alien creature at all. That will be most likely a bolt from that forest. It's definitely not the range. So like I'm considering right now, the Williams district in my business that like Johnson would have secretly like might not only notice like Nancy picking up specifically Barbara's photos and like Nancy's the worry extra specific worry in like Nancy's face. Johnson might not only notice so like I'm considering Johnson might have definitely followed Nancy all the way to like Steve's home. And Nancy would be Johnson would be totally nearby. It's definitely not considerable. So like I'm preparing right now for like a bull right now from like the forest to like only chase after Nancy and trying to like harm Nancy. But like I'm preparing like right before like the wolves would be catching up to like Nancy. I'm preparing Nancy is only being scared and panicking and trying to like get away from like the wolves. But like I'm preparing like the wolves as like the wolves would be about to catch up to like Nancy at that very last second I'm preparing Johnson to like basically show up and most likely I'm considering Johnson throwing like two stones at like the wolfman basically that way like Jonathan scaring away that wolf like showing that courage in such a situation like I'm considering Johnson would only build up the courage and show that courage and that way Johnson actually like scaring managing to like scare away like by throwing a bunch of stones it's like the medium size rock is like the scenario that I'm totally noticing. And that way, like Jonathan, like being the hero and saving like Nancy from such an extremely dangerous situation. And I'm considering that act of Jonathan only being able to like make up for like uh, Nancy, like for like what the photo issue that involving Jonathan, like basically just like heroic act at that point that about to happen with like Jonathan saving Nancy from that absolute danger, probably making it up for like Jonathan's mistake. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring in another way. So like the film under the impression right now has for like the fairy lights right now like leading Will's mother to like a specific shelf on like the side like I'm going to bring there will be like an item in that shelf like I'm going to bring there will be like a box or like a something like an item in that surprise shelf and to which like Mike, it would be perfectly built that would be like using those lights would be like leading with mother to that surprise shelf. And it's definitely not the revision. There will be definitely something in that shelf that Will would badly want with mother. to see and find and possibly even use. It's definitely my confidence. There will be something present in that self, like some sort of like either a message or like some sort of like a maybe it might be something else, like some sort of like an item or like a device or something that basically that like Will would be like totally using it like I feel Will would be able to like Will might not only from like the parallel dimension like might have or already like figured out a strategy to like help uh, to basically help Will's mother and all of them like to like safely reform a strategy to like basically help save Will. It's definitely my book generation. So like to totally like get Will's mother to like that item, precise item, whatever it is be that it will present in that item or message as like whatever it will be that will be present in that precise shelf, which would be what Will be right now attempting to throw like the lights right now, especially fairy lights right now, especially with rain. So like living room rain production right now with like will throw like the fairy lights and telling that he is not safe. Like I'm about to bring that will so like I'm about to bring it would be like only like it won't be like able to like communicate with like Will's mother whenever she feels especially because of like they are definitely being present in like feelings would definitely be a lot of feelings might even be present in like that not a lot but like at least one alien I'm looking to be definitely present in like just one of two aliens I'm trying to definitely be present in like the parallel dimension or like the parallel world of like Will's home. Definitely my position. So like when staff would be to like simultaneously ensure to like hide to not get himself found by these two aliens while hiding and sneaking his way into like being able to like communicate with mother from like the parallel world through these illuminations fairy lights is definitely my position. It's heavily because of the reason I'm remembering whenever like the sheriff like Hopper I'm considering definitely will be like once again showing up to Will's home. Either I'm considering it will be through like Will's mother herself like trying to like phone Hopper again like desperately trying to like phone Hopper again and trying to like convince Hopper again. Which I'm considering right now I'm going to think that for that attempt will be a point that then I'm considering the same thing to happen with like Johnson as well. Right now with like Will's mother even drawing like the alphabet on to like the wall. Definitely, I'm considering which mother will be obviously will be putting up lights on each of like the alphabet so that like Will could actually properly communicate through word by like lighting up those lights like when Will wants to communicate. But still, I'm considering especially because of like Will not being in like a safe situation. I'm considering like the situation always like being like I'm considering like the situation to always be like Jonathan definitely not believing Will's mother. Jonathan not believing his mother. Jonathan still thinking like his mother would be like kind of like going crazy when Jonathan would be returning back home and seeing this all this alphabet like which will be definitely on the wall, which will be definitely written by like this like lights. So like at that point, 12 members of the like Johnson totally feeling like his mother is like going crazy and basically members of like it's just like members of and like just like will not being in like a safe like situation members of like it will always happen safely like whenever like Will would be able to like outsmart like the alien creatures and would be able to like contact uh Will's home like basically with his mother like each and every single time like members of like coincidentally like Jonathan might not be present in like Will's home. Like I'm wondering like especially because it would be extremely hard for Will to like outsmart the aliens and contact find a way to like contact like Will's mother. Like and each time Will would be contacting Will's mother, like I was wondering it would be also coincidentally uh during times in which like Jonathan might not be present in like Will's home. It's definitely my boundary. So like especially because of this reason I'm would be constantly protected on time. Well, not only Hopper as well as like Jonathan would be personally like Will's home. It's definitely my birthday. So like especially because of this reason only like Will's mother alone being able to like secretly that will communicate with Will and figure out what's going on with like Will and everything is definitely my birthday. So like I'm going to bring that Will's mother probably giving up hope on her being able to like convince like not even Johnson or like and I'm going to her thinking along the lines as like especially since like I'm going to bring the scenario to be like her for a while I'm going to bring like her would be like not be able to like convince like Johnson Will's mother won't be able to like convince Jonathan at all. That basically at that point her only thinking that basically seems like she is not uh, able to like convince her own son like Jonathan like how will like the sheriff like Hopper would even be how would she even be able to like convince like the sheriff Hopper would be along the lines of something like Will's mother thinking along that line. So like her giving up all that hope is like the scenario that I'm looking at. And I remember like literally it will be only like the future, not in like the near future that I'm delivering. It will be like after a while that I'm delivering like the future that I'm delivering. Eventually at one point when like been be communicating through like the alphabet letters that will be like written at that point points only like at that point in like the future like Jonathan being present in Will's home or like either the other possibilities basically like this is basically while Will's mother will be communicating with Will secretly at that point itself will be like coincidentally when like Jonathan will be entering Will's home back returning back from school and entering Will's home. So like that way like Jonathan shockingly seeing what's going on. That basically was the entire time that basically Jonathan had basically it was Jonathan that was like around with the entire time that basically that his mother was exactly right and wasn't going crazy. Like basically Jonathan shockingly realizing that at that point with like the scenario that I'm talking about the and my and then Jonathan as well as like his mother and from that point on like desperately trying to like convince like Hopper is like the scenario that I'm going to for like the future and when the claim that the I'm right now as for like the ultra expert newspaper thing that right now Hopper is showing to like other like I'm wondering is that precise newspaper clipping like basically that they are being like while Pranav and a few others are standing in like the front like basically that single one person standing in like the far back in that photo in that newspaper clipping photo like that mysterious person standing in like the far back of even Dr. Brenner. I'm considering him to be most likely the boss of even Dr. Brenner, especially by the maybe like I'm considering that which character would be like that mysterious person would be like the person that possibly maybe even funding like the Dr. Brenner's like experiment, like the entire energy laboratory experiment, like energy laboratory funding and funding for like the experiment that everything might have been done by that precise mysterious person, that mysterious guy standing in like the far back in like that photo of like the medical expert like newspaper clipping is like one possibility that I'm going to something. Like in short, like my coaching career, but it's definitely for like the opportunity of like Corona and his like science team, like totally then all like totally working for that website with that mysterious character that like standing in like the far back in that website Michael Rice for newspaper clipping is also like a definite possibility that I'm going to go with I think in my career. So that's definitely not very embarrassing right now as for like looking at now for this entire time, like especially 11 precisely right now bringing Mike and his friend to precisely win. So like I'm preparing right now for like the scenario to be like definitely for like Dustin and Lucas only once again thinking that like 11 is like crazy and that like 11 doesn't know what she's saying or doing. To be along the line in like a projected manner, I'm preparing like the of like the mindset in which like Dustin as well as like Lucas will be acting, but like I'm preparing like Mike still totally watching 11 and I'm preparing at that point I'm preparing like Mike totally Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, like all of them, then along with like 11 them, like secretly walking up to like, and especially with like absolutely no light present outside of like with so I'm different like, so I'm different. Mike and his friends and along with like 11, I'm pursuing them to like secretly trying to like looking through like the windows into the insides of like the Will's home. And at that point, I'm also bringing them to have like the ultimate shocking reveal is like the scenario that I'm going to bring. At that point, I'm also bring all of them like not 11, but like Mike and his like friends, like all three of them having the ultimate shocking reveal with like them most likely what they will be seeing within like the while they were secretly speaking like what they will be seeing within like Will's house would be precisely Will's mother totally secretly communicating with like the lights on like the wall, which will be like the perfect alphabets like which like which mother would have drawn like she would have like illuminated each one of like, those alphabets with like each one of those alphabets would be illuminated with like uh with like different colors, depending on the scenario that I'm working. So like I'm going to maybe like each one of those alphabets like lighting up with mother like that would be what like I'm going to bring like my my candidates friends would be like totally see when they would be speaking into like this one that this mother like secretly talking to profess uh, lighted up alphabet and basically like the alphabets will be blinking and like with mother will be asking questions and like the alphabets will be blinking and in a way as to like give a response to like this mother like the alphabets will be like the reply the response to like the questions that this mother will be asking will like I'm referring like will be like and I'm referring precisely as they would be like seeing I'm referring scenario to be like as the people to like the how like them seeing like his mother or by his herself like talking to the like lighted up alphabets onto the board. So like I'm just straight away like the friend of the totally think that like for his mother I think they think that would have totally gone crazy. But like right then as like them to keep looking and at that point I'm going to bring like as Vincent would be like asking the questions like to like the alphabets on like the wall, like the alphabets in like the wall, like basically blinking and basically that way like giving up like the precise response of like an answer, like the alphabets blinking in such a precise and perfect manner as to like so as to like basically as if like a response is basically given to like each of the questions that this that will be asking to that precise alphabet, like that way like that being like the ultimate shocking revelation of like a twist that would be totally anticipating right now to happen with like the Mike and his friends getting that absolute shock as to like the as to like Will's disappearance to like Will's disappearance having something to do with like the supernatural, like basically like Mike and his friends at that point will even bring like Mike and his friends will be like shockingly realizing that it's like the scenario that I'm about to talk about and members of the so like the clinic of the production right now with like not only my friends but also Mike as well like they only disbelieving and disbelieving like for 11 and basically chasing after like the top like right now I'm going to bring with that chasing after the police car like I'm going to bring like the police right now would be precisely heading straight towards like I'm going to bring most like Steve so definitely my bring it if you look up like Barbara was last seen precisely at Steve's home. I'm going to bring like all those cop cars, like police cars right now will be heading straight towards like Steve's home. Like the scenario that I'm they might have only definitely might they might have only just now gotten like the news of like Barbara disappearance. It's definitely might have very embarrassing. So like it will be only just now that I'm going to bring that was like that like Nancy comes to bring to like Nancy's mother, like Nancy's mother made it straight away even before calling like Barbara's parents, like and I'm going to bring like definitely like Nancy's mother as well might have only felt that basically her phoning like definitely not in brain reasons that like Nancy's mother might have definitely totally felt that basically her phoning right now calling like Barbara's like family and basically informing them about like Barbara's disappearance that might not end well with her, like as Nancy. The one thing that Nancy's mother would be unable or for like different her might have probably straight away called like Hopper and might have like Mike's mother might have straight away called Hopper and might have only informed Hopper about like Barbara's disappearance. So that like that way for like through the top for like Barbara's family to find out about like Barbara's disappearance might be what like I'm differing like uh, Nancy's mother would be like totally expecting and like would be totally trying to do right now. It's definitely meant to be able to get like I'm differing like maybe I'm differing most likely I'm differing like Barbara's like mother and father most likely showing up specifically to like uh, specifically to Mike's home eventually, and I'm also bringing like them totally blaming for Nancy, and I'm also bringing at that point I'm also bringing like Nancy's mother totally defending and protecting Nancy, and like yet like at the same time like she will be like telling that absolute sorry. As well as Nancy as well, I'm also bringing at that point will be filled with that absolute guilt and will be like carefully telling sorry to like the parents of like Barbara. But like I was considering it would be at that precise point that I'm considering that a pop-up would be definitely showing up to that location. And I'm considering definitely it will be through pop-up involvement that I'm considering like pop-up would be totally ensuring and giving that absolute comfort and assurance to uh, Barbara's like family that basically he won't trust until he finds Barbara. Hence, like it will be through like that interference of like Hopper that and basically like Barbara's family, the Barbara's family will be like calming down finally. Like the scenario that I'm considering, and I'm considering like Hopper also comforting like poor Nancy and like even definitely even telling like Nancy's mother as well that it wasn't your daughter's fault along the lines as well like Hopper only comforting like everyone and basically it's like the scenario that I'm considering and Hopper at that point even more determined with like the second disappearance happening like definitely Hopper totally even seeing like the definite possibility of like a chain of like disappearance like happening from that possibility totally being like a full possibility right now for like Hopper, and especially since like the disappearance of the disappearance of Will as well as like right now the disappearance of Barbara happening in like the straight town of Hopper. Hawkins like and like Hopper will be expecting like more disappearance, especially targeting like the straight town of Hawkins as well. Will be along like a possibility that Hopper would be considering and totally it's like also like my dream and particularly right my dream is that like so right now in like the present like all this great number of like police cars like hurriedly rushing to like a specific direction that would be precisely to steal home. It's definitely my dream mission. Like they would have only just now received like they would have just now received the call from like Nancy's mother about like Barbara's disappearance and since like Barbara's last seen in like Steve's home like police cars would be straightly rushing towards like Steve's home and I'm considering with like and I'm considering right now with like Mike and his friend along with like 11 basically currently using their bikes like basically trying to chase after like the cars and I'm considering them as well ending up in like the very Steve's home and I'm considering like Mike and his like friend having that ultimate shock the moment that they would be like reaching there and finding out about like the second disappearance about like Barbara's disappearance. Like that's like the scenario that I'm looking right now in my booking membership. So like definitely my book impression is that like basically connecting to like Barbara's disappearance. Definitely I'm also bring like Thomas to the skin, Steve, Tommy as well as Carol, and I'm also bring like them the three of them totally being like absolutely certain that basically like telling Hopper that basically it would definitely be like the work of precisely Jonathan because Jonathan had basically took all those photos that very night like that Barbara was last seen like basically them doing their absolute best to like basically convince like Hopper that basically it was definitely Jonathan's doing that basically Barbara is like has gone missing and all that. It's definitely like the scenario that I'm considering like for Jonathan having a hard time. But like I'm also considering like at that point if I'm also considering while all this will be happening, I'm also considering definitely at Steve home like especially the family of Barbara as well will get only the past of Barbara now will be definitely present there. So like I'm considering Jonathan as well definitely after hearing this news of by now would have probably heard of like this news of like Barbara's disappearance as well. The news might have quickly spread and so like Jonathan as well might have considering without much delay like showing up to like say his home after hearing like the news of Barbara's disappearance and at that point I was considering for Jonathan getting into trouble with like I'm considering like the even through like Steve as well as like Tommy and Carol's like accusation of like false accusation of like Jonathan about the different like even Barbara's parents as well genuinely believing that Jonathan was like the first person behind like the disappearance of like Barbara and that way like I'm also bringing both Jonathan as well as his mother as well like trying to go through a lot especially because of Steve, Tommy and Carol like accusing blindly accusing like Jonathan so definitely my remembrance so like my conclusion is that like since while delivering all that happens still at that point like obviously Hopper won't be present like on Hopper delivering to even at that point like while Jonathan and like his mother would be like totally feeling that absolute disturbance and feeling of sadness on top of like this will like with such a fake false accusation falling on to like Jonathan and delivering while they would be like suffering at that point I'm something like definitely that sure Hopper like comforting them and they prove that absolute pillar of strength and protecting them is like at that point it's like the scenario that I'm considering, and like I'm considering like precisely like offer to like precisely suit the question Steve and Tommy and Carol, and I'm considering like that way, like at that point I'm considering like Tommy and Carol, as well as like as well, Tommy, Carol, as well as Steve, like eventually like confessing that like they had like maybe like I'm considering them possibly even lying, because like I'm considering like them to like kind of like have like a nice stream to like towards like Johnson, that I'm considering maybe like Steve, while like the initial interrogation I'm considering maybe Steve, Carol, and Tommy maybe even uh, falsely lying, and even saying that they had seen like basically Jonathan like basically abducting um, Barbara. It's also like a long like about that I'm different, but like about the like still Hopper like seriously interrogating like Steve, uh, as well as Tommy and Carol, and like during that serious interrogation like them like eventually confessing the truth that basically they had seen that, and I'm different like that way. Then like yet even after like all that interrogation by Hopper, like I'm different still I'm different like Barbara's like family will still be like definitely falsely believing that like it definitely that basically definitely Johnson might definitely be in behind like the culprit behind like daughter like Barbara affection and all that. So like I'm also definitely still like often like showing up, and that way like I'm also like definitely Jonathan and like his mother will definitely have to like suffer a lot, like, and I'm also uh, still like always like basically Hopper being that always like being that pillar of strength and comfort, and comforting them for always and giving them that absolute strength, and basically like to not give up and to keep fighting for to find will, and basically like that things will all eventually resolve itself out, like basically giving all that hope and confidence, and like boosting that morale and like of Jonathan and like Jonathan's mother, and like basically I'm considering like this would all be like and that I'm considering such a scenario to happen, and that would all be like a eventual foreshadowing of like eventually like Hopper eventually by the time eventually finally he will be finding and saving Will as well as Barbara and everyone, like at that point like I'm considering uh, by then like that absolute bond would have family like kind of like a bond would have probably by then would be being formed between like and uh, Hopper, as well as like Jonathan, as well as like Jonathan's mother, that I'm also bring like eventually I'm also bring them eventually becoming a family. It's like the Hopper living with like Will's mother and Jonathan, and it's like still the scenario, distinct with the final scenarios that I'm observing. Nothing is thinking on terms of revolution. So like the later history question right now, like the alien creature right now is coming out of like the world to like capture Will's mother. Like I'm wondering, since like so alien creatures have tried twice at least like before to basically to come out of like and appear out of like the wall, but weren't able to. And the like time would be like an crucial factor that new was already right now. As like the alien creatures have basically fully came out of like the wall of like Willstone and also trying like it would be necessarily because of like the alien being all these aliens being like they are strongest at 8 precisely sharp 8 o'clock. Definitely my difference. Right now the time would be sharply 8 o'clock here. It's definitely my difference, and that would be the sole reason for like this like aliens like they had tried multiple times in like the past to like basically come out of like what they could, especially due to like the solely due to like the time not being 8 o'clock. That's definitely my difference. These aliens would be their strongest at 8 o'clock sharp. That's definitely my difference. Like my difference is that like these aliens creatures might be able to like come out through from like pass through from like the parallel dimension to like the real world through light bulb at any time, like they will be having the power to be able to do that technical. But like I'm trying as perfect importance of 8 o'clock, I'm trying it to be only during 8 o'clock that these aliens might be able to like so casually and easily without even searching for like light sources like this for them to be able to like calculate straight away like infiltrating to like the real world through like walls, and was bring that only be possibly being possible for like the aliens only doing during precisely at 8 o'clock p.m. when they are trying to like the strongest, especially when definitely going to very person right now is definitely for like Will's mother doing her absolute best to like run as fast as she can and try to like get away from like that this alien that would be like after coming through like the world, like that alien will be definitely chasing after to capture Will's mother. But like I was wondering that her doing her absolute best to like run away. And I was wondering like her trying to like get into like the car, but like even before that, the alien would be like quickly coming out of like, the house. So like I was wondering like her not being able to like get into the car and like, her like body running to like that running to through that precise direction in which like Mike and his friend would have like cycled away from like Will's home. The scenario that I'm referring. So like I'm referring as like Mike and his like friends are basically chasing after the cop car. So their bicycle like I'm referring. All of a sudden like right now I'm referring for safely 11 to safely send like the alien in like the real world. So like basically to be that exact that alien that will be chasing after like this mother that like safely 11 will be able to send the remember the so like I'm remembering like 11 telling Mike to like look like a see the face screen the scenes and other face like I'm remembering 11 telling Mike to like stop the bicycle and I'm remembering like Mike not Mike would be like so cleanly that that has to hurry and to basically go after like the chase after like the police cars that I'm wondering maybe even Mike is not agreeing to like 11. So like I'm wondering right then it's 11 using up power and basically maybe like Mike even falling from like the bicycle and 11 like basically getting out of like the bicycle and quickly running backwards and I'm wondering like precisely because of like the extreme emergency and also maybe of like the officer when even doing to that extent towards like even my phone. It's also like about to that kind of stuff. So like I'm considering 11 only running backward. And I'm considering at that point like my and just like completely totally confused and I'm considering like Mike totally running after 11. So like I'm considering like but then Mike's running after 11. I'm considering like Sachin as well as Lucas would be totally running after Mike. So like I'm considering by the time like Mike and Dustin and Lucas would be like running after running behind 11 and by the time they will be catching up to like 11 and what they will be witnessing would be like Mike his mother like being chased by the like that alien and basically 11 standing right there and basically 11 using her superpowers like basically attacking pulling out like the current full extent of like her superpowers that she will be able to use and about 11 using her superpowers like basically attacking like the alien and like totally destroying and taking the life and destroying like the alien. And that way saving Vince's mother. So like at that point, totally everyone being in that absolute shock with like basically like with Mike and his friends totally being in that absolute extreme shock as they will be seeing this like alien like creature and that will be like the first time that like Mike and his friends will be like totally would be like having their mind blown and seeing like such an alien like creature and seeing how like 11 basically the power to like basically destroy that extremely scary alien creature like that as well will be like that like as good shock for my kind of fun. And as for like Will's mother would be getting that absolute shock as well. On top of like seeing this like scary alien creature, like the fact that like a child was able to like using some sort of like the child with like superpowers, like being able to like take the life and destroy that alien, like that as well will be like an absolute shock to like basically Will's mother as well. It's definitely not different. And soon Unfortunately would be like the point where like I'm considering Mike and his friends like investigation of Will and therefore task and investigation and like to find the villains and to save Will like their that for investigation and then therefore attempt to like help Will and save Will. That attempt considering to get like a huge to reach a huge advantageous question at that point with like Mike and his friends like joining up finally joining up with like uh Will's mother and them both like exchanging like all the information like Mike and his friends telling everything they know about uh precisely 11 to like Will's mother and Will's mother like and I'm also bringing like Will's mother to like basically reveal everything that she knows about like Will and about like the light source and as to like Will communicating to her through like light source and everything and at that point like when Will's mother will be revealing all this to like my hand comes like at that point I was like Lucas and Dustin and Mike totally absolutely like feeling bad that they had like disbelieved 11 and basically when 11 said that Will was like exactly hiding there in that home like basically all that. So like basically that for information exchange and those different happening right there. When like Mike and friends would be like meeting and talking to like Will's mother right there. After 11 would be saving Will's mother from like the area. It's like the scenario that I'm posting over everything. And from this point on, from that point on, I'm referring like Mike and his friends like Mike, Lucas, and Dustin and 11. Like they will be having like a new member to their whole uh, like investigation, and they need to say their attempt to like save Will, like the newest member being like Leslie, Will's mother, Stephanie member, especially because like absolutely they would be like all have that similar relatable kind of situation where like absolutely no one would be even believing them. Like the things they would have to say, like the information, the knowledge they have learned so far, and the things they have to say, absolutely no one around them would be able to like understand or would be able to like believe. What the knowledge they have gained, like if they said it to like anybody else. So like basically that way, like because of that extreme common and relatable things between them, like I'm also saying definitely in like Mike and his friends thing, like I'm also saying definitely with his mother as well, totally joining and like them collectively, definitely I'm also trying from that point on, like with mother as well, like possibly definitely helping Mike and his friends out with their whole attempt to like basically and them all working collectively and possibly tricking everyone and basically them or maintaining that stealth and basically like them all collectively working together and meeting up in like the middle of the night and like working together to like find and save Will and now Barbara as well. Like living the scenario that I'm going to and I'm so like the living the scenario right now that basically in this like precisely like in like the middle of the night like while like Popper will be like probably sharing like the positive findings like Will's body and them to totally find like the body of like a totally different person and that person and the difference will be like that very first scientist in like Brenner's lab that has been like attacked by the alien creature like I'm referring during that attack I was referring that alien creature might have not abducted like the that precise scientist, but might have totally taken the life of like that scientist. Definitely my professor that might have been what might have happened in like the very beginning. That's definitely my professor. So like was different like Brennet and his team uh, might have tried to like hide his like body in the precise lake. And so like I was referring like now that his body will be what I'm also referring right now will be getting found by through like the stuff of like the so from that from the precise lake that like the sheriff and his team are searching for starting at right now is like the scenario that I was talking about the Miriam Junction. So like the scenario of Miriam Junction right now is as for like the will body that like basically right now is found from like the lake. Unfortunately, that won't be like the body of like, the actual will. The actual will would definitely be still alive. It's definitely my doesn't way of it. It will be like the body of like the parallel world will. That's definitely my doesn't. So like definitely my good represents that like especially since like when Barbara was abducted by like the alien and when Barbara had basically woken up in like the parallel world, at that point she had basically woken up exactly exactly at like his home, but in like the parallel world. His home that looks totally different. Yet it was like the very same his home. Steve home that was like all dirty and was like kind of like the yet it was exactly Steve's home. So like I was wondering like exactly there might have definitely exist. There might definitely exist parallel version of like Mike and his friends and everyone in like the real world. Their parallel version would definitely exist in like the parallel world. Definitely might be but like I'm wondering like the aliens might have taken the life of like a good number of humans in like the parallel world, and hence why like even Steve's home and Steve and all of them might have definitely it's the parallel version of like Steve, uh, Tommy and Steve, and maybe his family as well might have their parallel versions in like the parallel world. They might have all died by the hands of this like villain of aliens, definitely members of the American. And it's why like when Barbara woke up in like Steve's home in like the parallel world, those Steve's home was like kind of like deserted and empty. It's definitely members of the American. And it's totally different and in like a in like an unclean manner, definitely members of the so definitely, when a parallel version of Will might have definitely existed in that parallel world, and he too might have definitely have high IQ. But like I'm referring, like eventually, like my person to impression that like things like the even like according to my person to impression, even like the parallel version of like Will. might have had like definitely had like that exact same high IQ as like the real world Will as well. And something like who might have eventually found out like maybe with like the help of someone like who might have only eventually found out a way to like the parallel versions of like all the people of like the real world who were like living in like the parallel world, and it might have been definitely the majority of like the parallel world might have been like taken over by like the alien creatures, and hence why like the parallel world might be in like an unclean state, or also definitely also might have been brainwashed. So like I was saying, the people there might have been desperately finding searching for a way to like escape like the parallel world, definitely not from brainwashed. So like I'm wondering eventually with like um, other people like other brilliant minds help as well along with like Bill. I'm going to bring like they might have introduced that in like basically sending Bill to like the real world. Especially they might have been about to like send Will from like, the parallel world to like the real world at that point. Especially in the parallel version of Will. It's definitely the scenario that might have happened. Definitely was an imagine, but like by then, like I'm different. The aliens might have even the group of alien armies, like creature armies, might have showed up to that location as well. So like I'm wondering, while all the others might have like others with like will and the battle version of will might have died at that point. Others wondering like will at the last second, like in the nick of time, like will might have still succeeded in like traveling from like the parallel worlds, and will might have succeeded in traveling from like the parallel world to like the real world, especially when with position. But like even though that parallel version of will might have made it to like the real world, right? Then itself was the aliens as well that might have been chasing after that parallel version of will, and might have like even entered into like the real world as well through some like so through like since like I'm considering like the time would be precisely around like 8 o'clock. They might have like created some sort of like a device or like an experiment in like the parallel world to like precisely it should like function precisely at 8 o'clock to basically send people from like the parallel world to like the real world, especially when it's open. So like that device or like something would have only just been completed, and like Bill might have been like the first person to from like the parallel world to basically travel to like the real world, especially my perspective. So like the parallel version of Will might have like travel to the real world, but like the moment like the parallel version of Will made it to like the real world itself, like, the alien might have stormed in there, and like the alien as well might have traveled into like the real world somehow, and that alien might have chased after Will and took the life of Will, and basically like that might have been how like Will's body might have totally it was might have been found in like the lake of Saturday doesn't remember. So like that will might be like the parallel version of Will, while like the actual real world Will that basically is like that like Mike and his friends like basically that has gone disappeared like that that has disappeared like might still be present in like the parallel world. And that might be like the actual real world would be like the first person in like the putting like the parallel world still alive, well and fully alive, and would be like would have like communicate would be like communicating with like the real world with mother right now and all that, and so on so on and all that. It's definitely my history. Like definitely from the mentioned right now is that like obviously definitely Jonathan might have been the first on his way to like basically to that first lake to identify Will's body. It's definitely not the remain like he had ran into the Presley with not definitely not the remains. So like I'm also definitely like Jonathan right now would be like firmly believing that like Will has definitely died by seeing Will's body from like the lake. That's the scenario that I'm remembering. And even though like Will's body from like the lake would be totally shocking like for Will's mother, like still I'm considering like still I'm considering like her to still not believe to still hold on to her firm belief that that type uh mysterious force that's basically communicating to her through like the lights will be definitely will that will feel just like alive. Especially with the mind of Emerson that especially with like how Will's mother had actually seen that right now just now had actually seen like the alien even alien creature even coming out of like the wall. Like definitely because of that, especially because of that, like I'm remembering Will's mother would be definitely seeing along the lines like even beyond like the simple ways of like thinking of like John and subsequent like definitely with mother would be totally considering all sorts of like unimaginable possibilities, and hence through those possibilities that will definitely be alive. Like even after seeing like Will's body, like definitely Will's mother would be totally firmly holding on to her beliefs Even though that would be giving her that absolute shock, still Amber Different like eventually still Will's mother like what eventually still Amber Different like Will's mother probably holding on to that firm belief that basically Will is still alive and Will's mother still contacting the Will. And I was suffering I was suffering at that point I was suffering technically not only Johnson but like definitely Hopper as well. I was suffering would be totally definitely would be assuming that basically Will's mother has totally gone crazy after like them having seen like Will's body like still from Will's mother like basically still believing that like Will is alive. Like I was suffering I'm considering her to like keep saying that like whenever she like Jonathan or Ambassador Jonathan totally trying to like make his mother like accept uh, that what she believes that what Jonathan believes that Will would have definitely died. So like still her refusing and her keeping on this word, saying the strange words that Will is still alive is like the scenario that I'm picturing and I'm just definitely protecting for Opera without the tuning as if genuinely believing that along the lines of like Will's mother has gone crazy, but like I'm just still secretly communicate with Will, and I'm just it to always it to happen perfectly when like Jonathan won't be at home and like neither Hopper will be showing up to like Will's home, like it will be while it will be like Will's mother will be like all by herself at her home, then it's essentially constantly will be like the time when like each and every single time that will be communicating it would be just during such a situation, definitely my things. And definitely one thing like it would be and then definitely one thing Hopper would being offset the mindset that to like basically uh, and a particular like Hopper would be right now exactly like as how Hopper said like basically that Brian might have taken the life of Will solely due to like Will possibly having seen something that he shouldn't have. Like basically that would be exactly along the lines in which like I was saying Hopper would be continuing to investigate. Hopper would be like genuinely believing firmly believing blindly believing that like definitely Brian or like his men had actually taken the life of Will to silence just silence the information about whatever that's like happening in France lab from getting leaked and to the public and all that. Like we really along the line Hopper thinking and Hopper like after definitely Hopper being shocked after like seeing Will's body would be like 6 minutes to like basically not rest until he brings down Brian and gives him brings Brian in front of justice and ensures that Brian gets that punishment and jail sentence. Like basically, the odds to those is like basically Hopper would be continuing his investigation from this point on, by firmly and blindly believing that will have definitely died. But like I'm considering like that for ultimate twist and that absolute shock for Hopper as well as Jonathan only happening in like the distant future when they will be realizing like the actual possibility of like a parallel world and it's like the scenario them even realizing that and then even like feelings of such a possibility is even existing like that only happen in like the very distant future until then I'm considering Hopper being determined to bring Brian to justice and Hopper also is right now, especially after this Will disappearance, Hopper would be only thinking along the lines that Will's disappearance, the system house right now resulted in Will's death. Like definitely right now with also Barbara's disappearance, definitely Hopper would be like that much worried for Barbara as well, ending up dead. So I'm wondering that would be like extremely Hopper will be extremely worried and Hopper will be in an extremely upset manner like in the picturing Hopper will be like only planning on doing everything that he can and breaking all sorts of codes to basically infiltrate into precisely the laboratory of Planet and I'm considering Hopper doing his own private investigation stealthily by breaking all codes and basically stealthily Hopper in the middle of the night basically infiltrating stealthily by himself, trying to infiltrate into end up infiltrating into the laboratory of Brennan. And it will be precisely because of definitely Hopper would be only feeling that definitely the abducted the recipient Barbara as well would be definitely be present somewhere in that process energy laboratory to be along the line. Hopper would be firmly believing. So I'm pretty Hopper would be able to just let time pass and basically for Barbara as well to like have the same face as Will would be along the line like Hopper would be thinking so like Hopper would be definitely breaking all rules and secretly infiltrating into that Brenner's laboratory in like the middle of the night without much delay. And I'm just putting that Hopper like definitely would be taking photos and like of like the everything he would be seeing within like Brand's laboratory. But like still I'm also bringing since like Brand would have only foreseen such a scenario. And that would be like the best reason for like Brennan only feeling within like Brennan's laboratory, feeling something onto like the floor. Earlier. It should be precisely all that crucial evidence connecting to like the alien creature and all that. And maybe like even the exotic the alien creature, like and the Brennan's might have got still within that floor area, especially my considering which I'm considering um it's some personal or different like hop up when the super like eventually without much delay like hop up like would be figured in like the middle of the night will be infiltrating into and investigating within like then of the laboratory of Planet. Like at that point I was thinking hop up like taking a lot of photos of to like the interiors and everything he will be seeing within that lab of Planet. But like I'm considering still hop up not being able to like precisely find out that secret like panel on the floor where like Granite captured and all that crucial things in like Granite laboratory. But like I'm considering would be like coincidentally like um, would be like as part of taking a lot of photos within like as for anything that Hopper will be seeing within Granite's laboratory. Granite would be also Hopper would be also actually taking like the photos of like that in this like that precise floor panel would be like present in one of those photos. So like I'm also bringing it to see only in the future later on when like uh, and I'm remembering after like taking all those photos like I'm bringing like bringing all the photos to precisely the science teacher of Hawkins and I'm bringing like him assessing all the photos and I'm bringing still like him not being able to like precisely pinpoint like or be able to like figure out any extremely crucial details or anything. But like I'm bringing that ambassador would be only eventually found in like the computer, which would be through like proper like while in like the computer would be like reassessing all the photos he had taken like on the proper like noticing that like specific floor panel flat specific panel on the floor. So like at that point would be when ambassador like proper probably thinking of like the possibility that basically probably getting that feeling after like basically reflect about that something possibly being hidden within that panel, like basically only feeling in such a manner. And then considering so in such a scenario, and considering maybe like the various future and considering offer once again steadily trying to invest in like the middle of the night, breaking the rules and steadily infiltrating and trying to like investigate through into within like branch and the laboratory. And at that point, when I was trying like proper like undoing like the panels and basically floor panels and basically finding out like all that crucial information and details connecting to like the alien creatures and all that like proper finding out all that like only in that distant future scenario is what I'm considering.